So first up, let's look at an easy example of factoring by highest common factors. If we have to factorize, let's say, 2x plus 8. Looking at these two terms, what we are trying to identify is a factor. A factor is a value or number that could go into another without leaving a remainder. We could tell that the common factor between 2x and 8 is going to be 2, right? Because 2 could go into 2x and 2 could go into 8. And when we say go into, this is what is going to give us a clue as to what we're going to, how we're going to work out the terms inside of the bracket. If we say 2 into 2x, what we're really doing is dividing 2x by 2. The 2's will cancel, and what I remain with the x is what is going in the bracket. If I say 2 into 8, we know 8, or 2 into 8 is going to give us 4. Now, what you need to appreciate is that you could check your answer. If we expand the bracket, we should get back what we started with. So if you're not certain about your answer, you multiply the brackets or what you have outside the bracket by inside the bracket, and you should get back what you started with. Right? So this is one way you could check to see if what you're factorizing is correct. Let's look at another example. Still on factorizing by highest common factor. Let's say I have 4xy plus 8x. Looking at this expression now, we have factors both in terms of the numbers as well as letters, right? Now, I want to encourage you to look at each one separately. So you work out your factor for your number and then each letter, right? So between 4 and 8, the highest common factor will be 4. Now, there are other numbers that could go into 4 and 8. For example, 2 could go into 4 and 8, but then that wouldn't be the highest factor. And if we do use 2, then we will not fully factorize the expression. So you always want to use the highest or the greatest common factor. So here I'm going to use 4. Now, I'm not done yet because if I look at the two terms, I have x in 4xy and I have an x here in 8x. So it means that x is also common, or it is a common factor to the two terms 4xy and 8x. Now, if I take out 4x, right, 4x into 4xy, if you're not sure, you could always write it like this and cancel, like how you'd reduce a fraction, would leave us with y. Similarly, 4x into 8x, 4 into 8 will give me 2. And the x's will cancel, right? Now, sometimes students tend to confuse that part. So this is why I encourage them to write it like this so you can see that the x's are actually canceling. And 4 into 8 is going to give me 2, right? Again, you can check your answer if you're not sure by multiplying 4x by y plus 2 and see if it returns the 4xy and 8x, and it does. So we know that our answer is correct, right? Let's look at one where we have different powers of x. So let's say I have 5x cubed y squared plus 25x squared y cubed. So let's begin by looking at the numbers first. So let's say we have 5 and we have 25. The greatest common factor, the highest common factor there is going to be 5. Then let's look at each letter. We have x cubed and x squared. The trick with this is you always want to take the letter with the lower power. So between x cubed and x squared, the lower power there is x squared, or x to the power of 2. So that's what we're going to choose as our factor, right? Between y squared and y cubed, we're going to go with y squared. Now I will say 5x squared y squared into 5x cubed y cubed. Now if you're not certain, you can just quickly go to your working column, write the two of them there, and cancel things off, right? X squared into x cubed, you have, this would be like, you have a x by x, and on top you have x by x by x. So 2 of these will cancel with 2 of these here, leaving an x alone here. These y squared will cancel entirely. So what we remain here with is just an x, right? 5's cancel, y's cancel, y squares cancel, and we have an x plus 25x squared y cubed. And we're saying 5x squared y squared into that. So 5 into 25 will give us 5. The x squares will cancel off completely. Y squared into y cubed will leave more to y. So I'm going to get 5y here. Yeah, everybody right to that? Yeah? All right, so let's take a look at these. So we have here 5x plus 30. The common factor here is going to be 5. Right? And 5 into 5x is going to give us x, right? Because 5x divided by 5, the 5's will cancel. Plus 5 into 30 is going to give us 6. Right? So we get 5 into x plus 6. And we can work it backwards just to make sure that we are right. The other one we have here, 7x cubed y squared minus 14xy cubed. We're looking at the 7 and the 14. Highest common factor there is going to be 7. Between x cubed and x, you're going to go with the lower of the two, which is going to be x. Between y squared and y cubed, we'll go with y squared. Now for these, it might be a little trickier when you're doing this. So if you want to cancel, just to make sure that's not a bad option or not a bad pathway, you could cancel the 7s off. X into x cubed will give me x squared, and the y squares will cancel. So we remain in here with the x squared, right? Take back our sign, and then we have 14xy cubed over 7xy squared. So 7 into 14 will give me 2. X into x will cancel. Y squared into y cubed will leave me with a y. So I'll get 2y here. For these, you might just want to double check your working. It will take a minute or two to do that. So you double check 7xy by y squared will give us 7x cubed y squared minus 7 by 2 give me 14x, and y squared by y will give me y cubed. And we get back the same thing we started, so we know that our answer is correct. And then the last one, added 3 terms to this. We have 4a squared b plus 2ab squared minus 8ab. When we look at the numbers, the highest common factor is going to be 2. When we look at the letters, we look at each letter. So we're doing a first, then we're doing b. We have a squared, we have a and another a. So we're going with the lower. The lowest power will be a, because that's a to the power of 1. Then we have b squared and b. We're going to go with b. Open our brackets, and what we're doing is we're saying 2ab into each one of these terms. So 2 into 4 will give me 2. A into a squared will give me a. B into b will give me 1. No, they will cancel out. 2 into 2 will give me 1. A into a will be 1. B into b squared will give me b. 2 into 8 will give me 4. A will cancel it. A, B will cancel B. So this will be my answer here. Everybody right to that? Right. So next up, this was factoring by highest common factor. We want to look at grouping now. Now, how could you tell the difference between when you need to factor using the highest common factor and how to factor when you need to group? The difference here is that you'll find that when you have to do grouping, you will usually find 4 terms because we need to put them in pairs, right? You'll find 4 terms. So the example that we had in our sheet was this one here, ax plus ay, bx plus by. Let's look at that first. So my first clue that we need to use factoring by grouping is that I have 4 terms. The other thing is that there's no one common factor that could go into all 4 terms, right? But if we look at them in pairs, we can see that in pairs, there's a common factor that could work in pairs. So we have 4 terms and we have the opportunity to pair them off. And if we pair them off, we could find factors that could go into the pairs. So let's do that first. If we look at this bracket alone, the common factor is going to be A. If I factor A out, I remain with X plus Y. It's like I'm pulling the A out of there. Similarly, on this side, if I factor out this plus B, the sign here is important, right? I'm taking out plus B. I have a plus B in both of them. I'll remain with X plus Y. Now, at that point, look at what is happening here. This and this bracket becomes the same. It's like a factor, just like how A and A here was a factor. So what we're doing is actually factoring out X plus Y and writing A plus B in our bracket. Give me a thumbs up if you're okay with that. Yeah? Let's look at another example. Let's throw some numbers in there. Let's say I have AX plus 3BX plus AY plus 3BY. Our first clue is that we have 4 terms. And then if we look at the 4 terms, there's no one factor that could go into all 4 of them. But if I look at them in pairs, if I bracket them in pairs like this, I can see factors that is common to both of them. You all see that? So here, X is common to these 2 terms. I could factor out the X. If I factor X out, I'm going to remain with A plus 3B. Similarly, on this side, the Y plus Y is a common factor. I'll get A plus 3B as well. And this is the thing about factoring by grouping. You will always find 2 brackets that are identical. See it? And that gives us an opportunity to factor out that bracket. And the X and plus Y will go in our bracket. And this is how we factor by grouping. All right? Let's look at one more example. So the 2 examples we looked at so far, our signs were all positive. Let's look at one where we have some negative signs. Right? Now we're looking for common factors here. So you notice how we're seeing common factors, but only in pairs at a time? Everybody see that? Right. So our X is what we're going to be our common factor. If you pull that out, we'll get M minus 2N. Y plus Y. Right? M minus 2N. Now, important is that these 2 brackets, you always want them to be the same. One can't be positive and the other negative. They need to be the same in order for you to be able to factor that bracket out. Right? So it means that you have to adjust this sign if you need to, so that these 2 brackets, M minus 2N, M minus 2N, are always the same. Give me a thumbs up if you understand now. Yes? Everybody understand now? Great. So let me give you guys something to try. All right, so here's some examples that we're going to look at. We have 5AX minus 5AY minus 3BX plus 3BY. So 5AX minus 5AY minus 3BX plus 3BY. Right? What you could do, you're working them in pairs. And you could also identify what your common factor is going to be. So we're going to be pulling out 5A. Right? If I pull out 5A, I'll remain with X minus Y on this side. Now, if you want to make your life simple, you know this bracket on this side going to be X minus Y. Right? So it means, therefore, that what you're going to be pulling out on this side has to be minus 3B. Right? We can't have a X plus Y. It must be the exact same thing on both sides. So minus 3b by x will give me back this minus 3bx here. And minus 3b by minus y will give me a minus by minus, so give me back the plus, and 3b by y will give me back the 3by. Right? So it might be a good habit to practice writing the same bracket that you had here first, and then work out what your term here is going to be. Yeah? Once you do that, and these two brackets here are the same, you can factor that bracket out, and we get 5a minus 3b. Give me a thumbs up if you got that. Let's look at the other one. We have ax plus bx minus ay minus by. Again, we want to look at bracketing off in pairs. Let's identify our common factor. So we know we're pulling out the x, so we should get a plus b. So it means the bracket on this side should also be a plus b. So if I realize that my bracket is a plus b on this side, if I just compare this term and this term, I am really pulling out the minus y. Everybody seeing that? The a is here, so I need the minus y outside. And I could check to make sure minus y by a will give me back the minus ay. And minus y by positive b. And minus by plus will give me a minus. And y by b will give me back the by. Now that these two brackets are the same, you could factor that bracket out. And you'll get a plus b x minus y. Everybody get any hang of it? Let's look at this one. 5ax plus 3bx minus 5ay minus 3by. So you don't want to overthink it, right? It's just a series of steps that you're repeating, and it should work for any type of question you get. You pair them off, compare what you're seeing as being the common factor. In this bracket, here's the x, so that means I'm pulling out x. So if I pull out the x, inside of here, I'm going to remain with 5a plus 3b. It means that the bracket on this side also have to be 5a plus 3b. So let's write that. And then we could compare this and this. The 5 is already in there. The a is already in there. So I'm missing the minus y. Double check. Minus y by 5a will give me the minus 5ay. Minus by a plus will give me back the minus. And y by 3b will give me the 3by. So now that our two brackets are the same, this and this, we could factor that out. And we'll get x minus y. And that's factorizing by grouping. Yeah? So we looked at factorizing by the highest common factor and factorizing by grouping.